non-organic carrot that's like this, freshly picked, is hairy.
You look like you can handle those things. All right.
Oh my God.
I bet you didn't know you could invest in Fox News.
Didn't men give you the kitchen?
More on that in a moment. Occasionally, you stumble across a stock that makes you think, I didn't know I could even invest in that. Sometimes, you also think, ugh, who the hell would even want to invest in such a piece of shit? Speaking of crap, let's talk about our first of 5 stocks, Buzzfeed. And let's be real, Buzzfeed has had some serious stinkers over the years, with headlines like, you might be cleaning your penis wrong, we need to talk about Voldemort's dick. I'm very sorry, sweetie, but I won't let you finish your day until you see Mario's penis. Does SpongeBob SquarePants have a penis? An investigation. A serious investigation into SpongeBob's sexual practices. If you can find the poop in under a minute, you're a certified genius. It's hard to believe they aren't printing money. BuzzFeed went public in March of 2021, and it was about as cringe as you would expect. Oh, and they also screwed over most of their employees with sheer incompetence. As a quick summary, their stock debuted as a result of being merged with the 890 Fifth Avenue Partners Incorporated SPAC. Awful name, by the way. BuzzFeed took the route of a SPAC as opposed to a traditional IPO because it's a much quicker process and they wanted to cash out on the SPAC frenzy that was spiraling absolutely out of control in 2021. For context, in the year 2021, a record 613 SPACs went public compared to only 59 in 2019. Anyways, the management at BuzzFeed is majorly incompetent and they fucked up big time. Management royally botched the paperwork associated with getting shares to employees, including sending said paperwork to outdated email addresses that no longer even existed for current workers. Others who had followed the directions provided to them perfectly were left wondering where their shares were. The hang-up? Employees needed to file additional paperwork that would exchange their Class B shares for Class A shares, which had lesser voting power. But they were never informed of this until it was much too late. Quote, for context, only yesterday did we learn that holders of Class B shares would have to take additional steps to convert their shares to Class A before they could be transferred for sale. At this point, the stock's price was already tumbling, and they were screwed. Let's take a look. Never trust a company obsessed with penis. On to stock number 2, Fox, specifically Fox News.
Many women who get pregnant are blasted out of their minds when they have sex and not going to use birth control anyway.
AKA the source of information that somehow manages to leave viewers less informed than those who don't watch the news at all.
If you're wearing something, please get naked. That goes for you too, ladies.
As evidenced by the hilarious released text messages part of the Dominion defamation lawsuit. It just might have something to do with the fact that they blatantly lie to their audience. But who the fuck cares? They cater to boomers who have mucho dinero that they want to spend, which brings in those sweet, sweet advertiser dollars.
If you're a 16-year-old kid and you have sex with your best friend's mom, you usually get high fives, okay?
It should also be known that Fox is much more than simply Fox News. They also have other cable channels that hold broadcast deals with the NFL, including the Super Bowl, college football, Major League Baseball, including the World Series, the FIFA World Cup, UEFA's Champions League, and they even own TMZ and Tubi. They also have a broadcast deal with the USFL, which surprisingly averages over 1 million viewers per game. Americans love CTE. Anyways, Fox's news segment is cable's most watched network in primetime and total day viewing for the 6th consecutive year. And they beat out CNN and MSNBC combined.
There's got to be some downside to having a woman president, right? Something that may not fit with that office.
Despite a stranglehold on cable news viewership and several lucrative avenues of broadcasting revenue, their stock price has been underwater since it IPO'd in 2019. Turbulence remains on the horizon as they, literally yesterday, April 25th, 2023, fired their golden goose, Tucker Carlson. They also settled with Dominion for $787 million, which is 64% of their net income for 2022. And they still have another pending lawsuit with Smartmatic. Time for stock number 3. Sticking with the news sector, the New York Times has certainly had some stinkers over the years, but nothing compared to Buzzfeed. This newspaper has had an illustrious history that began way back in 1851, but it was not publicly traded until 1984. While journalistic integrity has been dying a slow death since the inception of the printing press, the New York Times has remained the first outlet most people think of when they hear the word newspaper. In fact, when people hear the word newspaper, they also typically think of an outdated fossil, a relic of previous eras. But boy oh boy, did this newspaper get the mother of all bailouts.
President Donald Trump.
While it's borderline intellectually dishonest to associate a linear relationship between a single independent variable, Trump, and their stock price, in this case, I think it's kind of warranted. The X and Y axis here intersect at June 12th, 2016, which is a mere few days before he launched his presidential campaign. Very intriguing price action since then. The New York Times, like most media platforms, got a huge boost in revenue from covering the batshit crazy things that came flying out of Donald's mouth on a daily basis.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
What can you say? The man is entertaining, and Americans love a good spectacle.
The man of the toupee. This is on the front page of the New York Times. I don't wear a toupee.
Their stock price is up significantly more over the past 5 years than many other companies, and it's just in time for the 2024 presidential election. Time for cheesecake. I will say, it's unusual for a sit-down restaurant to be publicly traded. The entire industry is notorious for razor-thin margins, and they are particularly susceptible to the boom-bust business cycle. When hard times hit, ain't no one coming in for a gigantic salad. Speaking of thin margins, in 2022, their total costs and expenses ate up 98.8% of their revenue. After some corporate tax tomfoolery, they end up with net income being 1.3% of revenue. Despite being a restaurant with slim margins, they do pay a dividend of $1.09 per share currently. Although the stock's price once quadrupled from its COVID low, it's been a little stinky since. On to our fifth somehow unknown stock. Does that dark liquor give you energy? I'm talking about Hennessy and Louis Vuitton. Specifically, Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. This must be an American thing to not know this company was publicly traded because, by God, their CEO is seriously the richest man on planet Earth. The stock's price has quintupled since 2016, and it recently became the first European company to reach a $500 billion market cap. Their revenue has doubled since 2020, but their net profit has more than tripled. The wealthy, and those pretending to be wealthy, just can't get enough of the Henny and leather bags. China, of all places, has been going buck wild, snatching up every luxury status symbol that they can get their hands on. Besides Henny and leather bags, this conglomerate also sells shitloads of perfume, jewelry, and makeup. The amount of major brands they have is kind of nuts. Louis Vuitton, Birkenstock, Hennessy, Sephora, Tiffany & Co., Christian Dior, Fendi, Givenchy, Marc Jacobs, Stella Celine, Dom Perignon, Princess Yachts, Tag Heuer, and Bulgari, among many others that I was too scared to pronounce. These crazy Europeans have an operating margin of 26.6%, something that would make the Cheesecake Factory fall to its knees. Unsurprisingly, Hennessy leads the pack among their alcohol sales, selling more than 94 million bottles worldwide. And as far as European companies go, they're knocking it out of the park.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
And speaking of sound, music, and other things, one of the big superstars of the world, Little Pimp